Hello everyone and welcome to my trash bin. I'm in the trash because I'm a trash man and this is where I belong. And today we're going to talk about what exotics you should buy from the exotic kiosk if you haven't bought them already. So basically we're just going to go section by section. Each of these may or may not require a different pack and or expansion. Red War is free, but all the rest do require a purchase. I'll put timestamps indicating which ones belong to which. But that's it. Intro's done. We're getting into it. So first, with the Red War exotics, I'd say nothing's really standing out to me as necessary. Polaris Lance was pretty good last season. Sleeper Simulant was pretty good, in years past, but linear fusion rifles aren't that great damage options, so I wouldn't really prioritize any of these over something else. Unless you're into PvP, Mida Multi-Tool is a just general use scout rifle people like a lot. I'm not a PvP guy, so I'm not even sure if it's meta anymore, so for any PvP recommendations, I would refer to a PvP person. Next we have the Forsaken exotics. So a couple highlights here. I'd say Le Monarque is probably your top choice. It's a poison arrow bow, does poison damage, and has intrinsic overload. We also have Izanagi's Burden. If you've seen damage swap YouTube videos, you've probably seen people use this. Snipers are good this season with artifact mods and whatnot. If you're into damage rotations and weird stuff like that, Izanagi's would be a good one to have. Aside from that, Thorn gets some points for being poisony and cool. If you're a warlock with necrotic grips, you can spread poison over a area, which is pretty interesting. Lumina. So this gives a damage buff and heals allies, which we do have a lot of sources of healing this season with the new auto rifle. So, take your pick if you want to use Lumina. The damage buff is significant though, but if you're a newer player, don't have Lumina, someone on your team might already have it, give that damage boost, but I know a lot of people who really like using Lumina for its damage boost specifically. Truth is allegedly good-ish now. Legendary rockets are generally the pick over an exotic rocket, unless it's something special like a Gallarhorn or a Dragon's Breath, which we'll get to later. But I believe it's got a pretty good buff with 3 in the mag or something crazy. So if you've exhausted all the other options, maybe get this. Maybe pay a little bit more attention because that buff might still be tested. Aside from that, nothing else is really jumping out. Anarchy, a lot of people used to like. It does arc traps on the ground, and the problem here is it requires 240 spoils of conquest. So if you don't have those, if you don't raid, that'll be a problem for you. But a lot of people say it's good, but I think it's just they're remembering it used to being good. I think some of those options are much better. Next we have some Shadowkeep exotics. So we have a couple more bangers here. First is Leviathan's Breath. Leviathan's Breath is a heavy bow. It is a very good damage option, although something to note, it does require the Catalyst in order to be good. So the Catalyst will increase your draw time after precision hits and maximizes the quiver size. So you would need the Catalyst. It will significantly increase your damage output. It's a very safe option, very easy option. Ariana's Vow is getting a buff, so maybe pay attention to it. We haven't really seen how the buff will help this gun, so something to keep your eye out for. Bastion also got a buff in kind of like a rework situation. It's intrinsic, unstoppable, and it seems to do well with melee builds. Pellets also increases melee damage, so you kind of use this, melee, use this, melee. That's the kind of loop that they're going for. None of these options, Symmetry, Devil's Ruin, Tommy's Matchbook, Fourth Horseman, those are all skips. Witherhoard, though. Witherhoard is So good, especially with Prismatic. So it's a kinetic that leaves a pool of goo on the ground that ticks damage over time, or if you hit an enemy, the goo will kind of suck into them, and if the enemy dies, then it leaves a pool. So it does a lot of good tick damage. It's great for building Transcendence on Prismatic. Highly recommend. Also greatly enhanced by its Catalyst, so it gives it auto-loading holster and increases handling. So it's very nice to, be able to auto-load this. And then you have Ruinous Effigy, Traveler's Chosen. Not super great. So we can go on to the next. Beyond Light, I'd really only recommend Tiku's Divination. It's a bow, it has tracking. It does not Scorch, which I think is a missed opportunity. It does not, it looks like it scorches, but it doesn't, so just keep that in mind when using that. And the only other one that I would half-heartedly recommend is Aegir's Scepter. This was the first Stasis Trace Rifle, and it kills emit a burst of slow. So it doesn't have intrinsic overload with that slow situation, which is a bit unfortunate. You do have to get a kill, and then something next to it might be overloaded, but that's pretty tough to predict. And the rest are just kind of meh. Lawrence Driver was a menace in PvP when it came out, but you're not really seeing it that much anymore. There's a very annoying sound that it makes. In terms of Witch Queen exotics, really the only thing that I would recommend is Grand Overture, and it's also very niche because basically what you do is you build up stacks, and I've seen people try this in the Witness, I think, but I don't know if it's good or not. You build up charges by hitting anything. It works on immune stuff too, and you can release a volley of rockets. It's good for burst damage situations, but not much else. I wouldn't prioritize it something over any of the Forsaken or Shadowkeep exotics I mentioned. As for the rest, Trespasser, Delicate Tomb, Manticore, they're all not that great. Finally, we're on Lightfall, so Quicksilver Storm, very good. Getting the Catalyst will turn it into a strand weapon, and its grenades will turn enemies into tangles, which is very useful on strand builds. Very cool, very fun. I love this gun. It did get a bit of a nerf, so it's not as crazy as it once was, but you still get the grenade charges from it pretty quickly, in my opinion, so definitely worth it. The next notable one, well, the next one, is Vergala Curve. So this you would want specifically if you want to make a lot of stasis crystals. So Hunters making stasis crystals, Titans making stasis crystals. This would be good in those types of situations. Also, I think people just like this generally, because it also freezes on direct hits, so it's a pretty good bow. Centrifuge, Wicked Implement, Exterius, these are all fine, whatever, okay. I wouldn't worry about them. Dragon's Breath, though, oh boy! So last season is when Dragon's Breath came out, and it was very good, and this season we just got an artifact mod that increases ignitions, so Dragon's Breath, very good now. I think it'll just be very good generally, because it's a good swapping damage option, because you stick a guy with a rocket, you can, do something else, and then a new rocket will be loaded. It kind of has an auto-loading holster situation, so long as you're getting scorch damage. So it's very good. Highly recommend. I'd say if you had one cipher, either this or Witherhoard should be your picks. Hey gang, so this is Kevin Jr. My name's Kevin Jr. now. I'm just gonna do a little wrap up at the end, a little bit of summary in case you tuned out to some of that rambling. So Forsaken, recommend Lemonarch, Izanagi's Burden, Izanagi for, if you're a damaged lord. Shadowkeep, Witherhoard, top pick. Leviathan's Breath, also good, needs the Catalyst, but Leviathan's Breath, good pick for damage. Beyond Light, Tiku's Divination, maybe. Grand Overture, and Witch Queen, maybe. And then Lightfall, you got Quicksilver Storm, very good, and Dragon's Breath, also a top pick. Thanks, Kevin Jr. So that's all I had. These are, of course, my recommendations. You're allowed to like other things. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong about Anarchy. Do it. I dare you. You know, it's always a conversation. It's always, you know, opinions are opinions, right? But yeah, that's all for me. Hope you found it interesting. Hope you found it useful. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.